Afternoon, good evening, good morning, Fabulites. I got a question for you. What opens with the sheriffs rolling down on the houses hard, and what closes with an innocent encounter between the two JCs? If you guess shots fired, episode 10, season 1, last hour 10, the last hour, is that what it's called? The last dance. The final hour is the last dance. Then you're correct. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to stay tuned, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts, my recap, my review of the season finale. The season finale. All right, let's get into it. Seed first. First seed first. So we got that police invasion of the houses. As I said, the cops are there. They at Mama Campbell's door is Bestie Brooks. And he, asked Mama Campbell and her son Sean if they know anything. They say no. He tell them to stay inside. They harassing people. It's bright lights. It's the middle of the night. Yelling, tackling and restraining people. Door knocking, sirens, guns cocked. Sheriff Platt is on the warpath because he says that the last he heard is that Breland was coming to the houses to apologize to Mama Campbell. And he believes that someone followed Officer Breland from Mama Campbell's place, and that's why he was shot in front of his house. And he said he gonna keep this up until they find the murderer. We see Pastor Janae there. She's trying to advocate for the people and document what's going on. And we also see Pressed Ash there, and they try to bring some reasonableness, but it ain't really nothing to be, ain't nobody listening to them. But what does happen is that Preston asks Ash, where were you? And she says, I was out driving. But what we do need to focus on, Preston, is we need to get these cases tight, or this case tight, for the grand jury. So then we see Pressed Ash with Widow and Tess Breland, and the sheriff is there too. They're asking, is there anything unusual that happened, here recently? And the widow says, well, he was talking about early retirement, but I just thought he was having a midlife crisis. And Tess says, well, he told me that he helped to cover up Joey Campbell's murder, and that he was blackmailing someone. Okay, so then we see Ash following up with Witness Linden. You may remember Witness Linden as the grown-ass man who claimed that he sold drugs to Jesse Carr. You remember Jesse Carr is the one who does not get high. But Linden says he sold drugs to Jesse Carr because he was working for little kid Joey Campbell. This grown-ass man said he was working for Joey Campbell. Now, Ash don't believe this story. And Joey Campbell wasn't even wasn't even selling drugs. So the story don't make sense to her. She go talk to the guy. The guy basically tells her, look, I'm on parole. This is the law in the town. They be on me to tell stories. Sometimes I got to do what I got to do because I'm trying to survive out here on these streets. And Ash is like, so he's saying Breland made him lie. Everybody blaming everything on Breland. Ash is like, tell the truth on the stand, or you are going back to jail. So then we see the woman, Department of Justice lawyer in Preston. Her thing is, don't talk about race. It'll make everyone uncomfortable. You'll lose the grand jury. The grand jury will look more like the white me than the black or brown you or Beck, And Preston is like, now how am I going to ignore race on a civil rights case? And Preston is, so we see, then the next thing we see is Preston going through a huge mass of people from the press on his way to the grand jury. And this is the Jesse Carr case, and Ash is testifying. And there's this underlying question that's going on during the questions that are on top, but under the surface there's this question going on, and Ash picks up. It's kind of like the question is, did you kill Breland? And Ash is kind of like me, like, oh, okay. So then we see Beck with his lawyer at home, and Beck is upset that he cannot go and speak to the grand jury. And his lawyer is confident. He like, oh, boo, don't worry about that because you're safe. You are behind the blue wall, and you got that standard issue line of all of the men and women in blue. I feared for my life. We just gonna stick to that script. Everything gonna be all right. You ain't got to worry, bro. You ain't got to worry. So then we see Mama Carr. She's playing with one of Beck's baby boys at the grocery store, just in the community. And they, you know, through the aisle, the baby has passed her a toy. So she has the toy. She walks it around. She gonna find the mama and get the mama the toy. The mama is Carrie. When Carrie Beck sees her, Carrie Beck is frozen. She recognizes her. She like, oh my gosh. But Alicia Carr does not recognize Carrie Beck. So Mama Carr mistakes Mama Beck's stupor for her just being overwhelmed as a mom with these two little rambunctious little boys. Cute little boys. And she tries to comfort her, Mama Carr does, and reassure the young mother Beck. They are so precious, your little boys are. And it'll get better. And then we see Sheriff Platt at Governor Eamon's office. And he's basically business as usual. And she's like, let's not scapegoat the dead. I am demanding your resignation. And Platt is like, I'm not going to heed your demands. And the governor is like, oh, you'll heed. And I'm personally committed. And Platt is like, let's just see what Cox has to say. Peace out. Okay, so then we see Officer Bestie Brooks. He's on the stand for the grand jury. And he's saying, you know, for my friend Beck, my bestie Beck, you know, it was tough being, you know, blue. And he hated the tours, but not because of skin color. You know, white people never, ever called Beck a sellout. They probably had other names like the N-word for him that he didn't know about. I'm just saying. Okay, so then we see Pressed Ash back at the office, and they get a text. And they watch on the news the full video of the Finally Got My License to Shoot Crackers video. Y'all remember that? And, you know, he says, ha, ha, ha. After that, we never saw that part before, but now we see he says, ha, 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 ha. I was just playing. You know how hard I work. I want to make a difference. I want to treat folks with respect. I want to make y'all proud. And then he gets applause from all the black folks he's being celebrated by and that he's celebrating his accomplishment with. Okay, so then we're in the hospital with the reporter who got ran into by a car. Somebody was after her because they thought because she had some information, and they got the information. And she's like, you know, the editor of her newspaper or publication or whatever put out the short version of the video because they were trying to get online views. And she said that she put out the full version because she felt like the media is lynching Beck, and she feels like, you know, she ain't gonna let it just go without without a fight. You know, she want to share this information. So then we see a press conference with Beck's lawyer, and he says the video proves that my client is being railroaded by the DOJ. Okay, so then we see Ash telling Preston that witness Lyndon, which she had secured earlier, was arrested for using his car shop to sell drugs. You know how these black people are. We always be selling drugs. And he got caught selling drugs by the sheriffs. And his lawyer is saying that Ash coerced the testimony out of him. So their star witness, that's who he was. He not going to testify. And Preston is like, you didn't. Did you coerce the testimony out of him? And Ash is like, what? Huh? Okay, so then as Preston gives his closing argument on the race-based legal system, we see a flashback of Beck and Jesse Carr, their encounter. And we hear, you know, Preston talking. He says, an indictment means that we have questions, not that we're saying that he is guilty or innocent. And Preston is asking for the indictment. And when I watched the video, it's like everything happened so fast. I couldn't tell if Carr tripped into him. I couldn't tell if Carr was rushing for his gun. I couldn't really tell. I watched it twice. I still couldn't tell what was going on. But I could tell that Beck shot him. That I could catch that. Okay, so then we see Pressed Ash at Mr. D's restaurant. Press is It's the third hour of jury deliberation, and then he gets a text, and the jury has reached a decision. And Preston is entering the courtroom, and we see Mama Carrie Beck, and she's looking worried. She's looking at her sons, and they're playing with the lawyer, but through the window behind them, she can see a police car. And Officer Bestie Brooks, Officer Bestie Brooks shows up at the door. He says, "I'm sorry," to Officer Beck, who's no longer an officer. "I'm here to arrest you. They've decided to indict." And Carrie is crying in the background. The hubby and the wife hug. There's a family hug. And then as Beck is getting into the car, he says to his best friend, Brooks, "I'm glad it was you, man." Why? Anyway. Okay, so then we see Preston and Ash, they in bed together, but they far apart. And they're basically dressed. And Ash says, "We supposed to be drinking champagne." And Preston is like, "I don't feel much like celebrating." And Ash is like, "What you mean when you said you understand why people take matters into their own hands? You need to ask me something?" And Preston is like, "You need to tell me something?" And Ash is like, "Yup, we are a mistake. Sir Gutless, you scared? You got something to ask me? You ask me. Don't be hitting around." And then that's the end of that scene. And then we see Preston entering the grand jury for the Joey Campbell situation. This is through the press again. And they're protesters. And Pastor Janae says to him, "Make it right. Make it right." And then we see Mama Campbell on the stand. So basically, Joey was at a girl's house. She lived about 10 minutes away. He liked the girl. The girl's mama was like, "Well, you got to come over here and have dinner and meet the family. I don't want you messing around with my daughter. I don't know who you are." So he's called his mama after the dinner. You know, it went pretty good. He thinks it went pretty good. He feels like the mama liked him. He don't know how the daddy felt, but he gonna tell her when he gets home. He was only 10 minutes away. An hour later, Mama Campbell ain't heard nothing from him, ain't seen him. He ain't answering his phone. So that's basically what happened. Dang. Dang. Okay, here we are. An hour later, she couldn't reach him. And I did realize the second time around that Corey had already testified, because the other DOJ lawyer says she feels it's enough. Corey did good. Mama Campbell did good. Let's let it rest. Preston is like, I want Cox up there on the stand. So when Cox gets on the stand, he says, "Yes, I was unstable, but so was the black Joey. He was unstable." And we see the murder of Joey, and we also see Corey and Kiana witnessing. And the chant that they were saying outside the courtroom is, "Somebody call my justice." I hadn't understood it the first time, but the little boy, when he was murdered, was saying, "Somebody call my mama." So that's why they were, "Somebody call my justice." And he comes outside and he announces that there is no indictment of Arlen Cox. And somebody is like, "We need to burn this mother down," or whatever. And Mama Campbell is basically like, "We got to organize. We cannot be a reactionary community." And Ash walks through the crowd, and she pulls Preston inside, and she's holding him and hugging him. And Preston is like, "It can't end like this." And Mama Ash now is embracing him and holding Preston and patting him. "I know, baby. I know. It's just so fucked up." Yeah, it is, isn't it? Okay, so then we see Governor Emmons in an interview, and she is going to go forward with the education initiative without Cox. If I lose, she says, she going to do so doing the right thing. She going to be fighting for right. And then we see Preston on the video cam with Carol's number 2, the Latino guy who was, not the big boss, but the little boss. And number 2 is like, "Okay, well, on to the next." And Preston is like, "Platt is next." And Breland's lawyer says there's evidence. And number 2 is like, "Nah, it'll be blamed on Breland. It's time to move on, Mr. Preston Terry." And then the other DOJ lawyer, is like, after he gets off the phone, he's kind of like, "Oh." And then the other DOJ lawyer is like, "Don't worry, I don't get inspired much, but you inspired me. Stay hopeful and fight for what's right, young black man." I want you to be quiet. Can you be quiet, please? Shh, shh. Okay. Okay, so then we're at Breland's place with the widow and the daughter. Preston is like, I think your hubby had a storage, and they like, yep, we just gave the key to Platt. And Preston is on the phone. He like, we got the address to the storage. They like, yeah, we just gave that to your partner. Then Preston go on to the storage. He breaks the lock and he enters the storage unit. He's looking around. He finds and plays a recording of Breland and Platt. Breland, he shot that boy. Platt, just say it was drug related. Stick to the script. Platt comes in real life. He says, you got a warrant? It looks like breaking and entering. Put that weapon on the floor. And we see a flashback of Platt shooting Breland. Justice isn't won in the courtroom, but on the front lines. I think this is Platt talking. I'm on the front line, and my guys are on the front line every day. They are my family, the only family I got. I wonder why. I'll take that recording. It's inadmissible. And then Ash comes and she's like, I got a warrant. Put your gun down. Thanks to Emmons, I got this warrant and you are under arrest, Platt. And then we see pressed Ash and Platt. They say that Platt admitted to some stuff, but he wants a deal. And then Preston puts on music and they dance. And Ash is like, you thought I would kill Breland? And Preston is like, I didn't know. I know how much you love your daughter. And Ash is like, well, thanks for having my back when there was no one else. I'll miss us. And they're dancing again. And then we see Pastor Janae. She's flanked by the hands. And she's there at the church. And she says the same grand jury that did the impossible by indicting a cop let a rich white man go free. That's the normal everyday thing. This is an organizing meeting we're at, we realize. They talk about voter registration. Mama Campbell and Mama Carr in the audience. The governor's former assistant, Sarah, she's helping. We see Officer Bestie Brooks, who was invited. He's decided to accept the invitation. He comes forward to speak to the group. He gets a dry reception. He's nervous, but he pushes on nonetheless. And we also see that Mr. Corey is in the audience. Then we see Preston having a meeting with Cox outside. And Cox is like, what is this? And Preston is like, this is a list of civil rights violations from inmates in your prisons. I am on your ass. And I'm not going to rest. And then later on we see Ash playing soccer with her daughter. She's on a supervised visit with Kai. And then we see Preston. He's cleaning out the gate station DOGA temporary office, and he leaves the picture of the white and the black JC on the bulletin boards. The bulletin boards are cleared now, just the white and the black JC. And then we see a flashback of Jesse bumping into Joey when Joey visited the campus. That's all I got, Fabulites. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. Be you, be fabulous, you. Bye.